What is going on, everybody? This is Seebass from Rockin with Seebass, and today's going to be a good day. Just so you know, I don't know how my internet's doing. I was having some issues earlier. Hopefully, this will keep running and stay on until at least the end of the show. I'm hoping. But we're going to have a very special guest coming in here shortly. We're going to wait for him. His name is Doogie White. He is the current lead singer of the band Alcatrazz. Great band. If you don't know who they are, definitely look them up. That band was fronted by Graham Bonnet. He left Rainbow and formed that band with Yngwie Malmsteen, and later on was replaced by Steve Vai. It's kind of cool how two good guitar players can replace each other. He's also released a solo record called As Yet Untitled. He actually released it probably 10 years ago, I think. He's just now re-releasing it with 2 bonus songs, actually. I've heard the album. Great album. Seriously, look it up. He's also played with Yngwie Malmsteen. He's played with Michael Schenker, Rainbow from Richie Blackmore. Great stuff. This guy has played with everybody, I think. And sooner or later down the line, he's going to play with Steve Vai, I think. There's got to be a little circle there. But we're going to wait for him. As of now, we're going to see who popped up here right now. We got Chandler. What's going on, man? Good to hear from you. Still rocking? Still making those funny videos I see you making? I like those videos, man. They're really cool. We're also going to have a few other fans coming up here. Emma should be coming up on here, so is Fran. So let's hope they come on. Let's talk about these albums right here. That's right, Rainbow. And holy cow, wait, I think we have a guest coming up. Here he is.
Hello.
Sir.
That was a bit loud.
Oh, sorry, sir.
How you doing, Sebastian?
I'm doing great, sir. How are you?
I'm very well. Slightly deaf, but I'll be okay.
I apologize. My room, it's not as soundproof as it should be. But you're in the UK right now, right?
I'm in Scotland, yes.
Oh, wow. And, it's funny. I wanted to schedule the show at 8 o'clock, but then I'm thinking, I don't want him to be up all night unless he wants to, but
Well, it's 9:30 here, and as you can see, it's still daylight. Normally, over there behind me, there would be something called the Pentland Hills.
Oh, wow.
But we have something called a Har, Haar, coming in off the sea. So it's blocked off all the hills. So you can't see anything.
Wow. Well, some good shelter right there, I would say.
Yeah.
I need to go to Scotland. I'd like to see what the place is like, because I've never been in the European nations, actually.
Okay. Well, it's an interesting place, and I lived in London for 30 years, and so I've just moved back here, and I'm enjoying it very much. The air is cleaner. And it's not peoply.
We also have a fan here. He's saying hi to you.
Hey, Chandler. Yeah. I'm doing good.
So I just wanted to ask you real quick, because I've heard your voice. Your voice is amazing. How did you decide to become a lead singer, and how did you get your voice to become, that range?
I became a singer because I was a really bad drummer, and I had no rhythm, and so I thought I would be a guitar player, and then I discovered that if you wanted to be a guitar player, you had to put hours and hours and hours of dedication in, and I was busy trying to be either Evel Knievel or Bruce Lee, building ramps and jumping off things, and someone just said to me, I used to go to Clayson Memorial Church, and I went there until I was about 20, and we used to have a youth club at the weekends, and somebody said to me, we're putting a band together, we've heard you singing in the church, do you fancy joining our band? And so I did, and that was my first experience ever of the guitar player turning around at 15 years old and saying that his girlfriend was going to manage the band.
Wow. That's awesome. And you're definitely right about putting dedication to guitar work. I used to be a guitar player.
You still are?
Technically, yes, I am. I am. Just got to get back into it. I'm actually a dancer in some ways, but you're right.
What kind of dancing do you do?
I do contemporary dancing, a little bit of ballet. Not the best at it, but I do a little bit of it. And I do pop dancing, but I like to dance to rock and roll, as you can tell.
Right. Okay. Yeah. The guy, Jokke Svalberg, who was the keyboard player in Yngwie's band, he was also the keyboard player in Joe Lynn Turner and Glenn Hughes's band HTP.
Oh, wow!
He was a professional ballet dancer, and from Stockholm, and he was the male principal ballet dancer in Berlin and Hamburg, in Germany, right? And he was brilliant at it. And whenever he got drunk, he would always do these triple salkas things, where he would make his legs flap.
Right.
And he was also a pool shark. And I remember us being in Texas when we were on tour with Yngwie, and Jokke and I used to like to go out and drink together. And we were playing pool. And of course, he lets the first guys beat him. And then he just started taking them all apart. But then, after a few more Jack Daniels, he started getting sort of all balletic. And somebody came over to me and said, "Is that your friend there?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Take him out of here before he gets shot."
Oh my! Well, I pray he didn't.
I took him out. I took him out of the place, and we survived to live another tale.
That's good. And you guys survived the Rock On Another Day with Yngwie's band. Oh wow!
Yeah, we did.
And of course, you mentioning Yngwie Malmsteen. You've been with him. You've been with Richie Blackmore. You've been with Michael Schenker. You've been with almost everybody.
Well, not almost everybody. I've played with 3 of the finest guitar players,
right,
that are known, and each one of them was a joy to work with, and we always got on really well. And but these things pass.
Mm-hmm. Well, I kind of want to mention something because you're now in Alcatrazz, and yes. I see the circle here because Yngwie was in that band, Steve Vai was in that band, so I was kind of curious. Are you ever going to work with Steve? Kind of just.
I don't know Steve at all, to be honest. I mean, he seems to be very successful doing his own his solo stuff, and I mean, I got into Alcatrazz. Graham Bonnet and I have been friends for many years, and we've toured the world together on a number of occasions. And when Alcatrazz were touring in the UK, I think probably 2018, before the pandemic hit, certainly. And he was in Edinburgh, and he phoned me up and said, "Can we go for a coffee?" And I said, "Okay," because I was going to go to the gig at night anyway. So I showed him around a little bit of Edinburgh, the gruesome places and the lovely places. And he just said to me, "I hate this. I hate this music. I hated it when I was doing it with Yngwie. I hated it when I was doing it with Steve Vai. I don't want to do this anymore." And and I said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And he said, "Well, I want to go back to the Graham Bonnet band where I can play at least some of the music that I like." And I said, "Well, look, man, you're 70, whatever he was, 72, 73 years old then. Go and make yourself happy. Go and play the music that you want." And that's what he did. And I had no idea that he was going to leave the band.
Me neither.
And I had no idea that they would call me up, and that was completely off the wall. They could have chosen one of, a dozens of guys to do it, but they asked me if I would do it, and I thought, right, okay, that's another challenge.
Oh yeah, well, and your voice goes along really well, especially with the hit song. I can't think of the name here. Okay, so Turn on the Wheel. Thank you. Turn on the Wheel. I had to think of that for a moment. With the song Turn on the Wheel, great video, by the way.
Thank you.
That song, it's really heavy, and I mean, it's a very different take of what Alcatrazz is. How did you guys come up with that song, and also the music video? Like, why did you guys shot at that particular location?
Well, that was the first song we wrote together. I mean, the idea was that the Alcatrazz guys asked me to fulfill the tour dates that they had booked to promote the previous album, Born Innocent, which was the last one that Graham did before he left. And I said, okay. But then the tour was pushed back a year or 8 months. And I said, well, listen, rather than me being in a Graham Bonnet or an Alcatrazz tribute band, why don't we write an album together? And as quick as that, they had sent me over 4 or 5 song ideas that they had. And the first one was Turn of the Wheel, as you've mentioned. Thanks. And we just started writing, and it just clicked. I mean, there are some people where writing with them can be like pulling teeth, you know, and other people. I mean, when I was writing with Richie or when I was writing with Schenker, and now that I'm writing with the Alcatrazz guys, it's very, very easy because we're all coming from the same page, and we're all steeped in the same musical knowledge, and the same love for the same kind of music. I don't have an Alcatrazz album. I never saw Alcatrazz live. The only songs that I know of Alcatrazz are the songs that I've been asked to learn for the tour, the upcoming tour with Girl School. So it was an interesting journey because I had no preconceived ideas as to how it was going to be or what we were going to do. It was just like, send me the stuff and I'll write it.
Yeah, and that's what you got to do. You got to do what you got to do to be ready for that tour. And you know, huge props for Graham Bonnet to do what he wants to do.
Well, you know, I've known Graham for a long time, and I just want to see him happy. I mean, he's been my friend for 20-something years, and I just want him to be happy. And if he's not happy doing something, and he comes to me, I'll give him unsolicited advice.
I wonder what that is.
Go and do something you like. I mean, man, life is short enough. Don't be miserable about it. You know,
exactly.
If something makes you unhappy or something you're not enjoying it, there's a big world out there. Go and do something else. I didn't expect to be doing this right enough. Here you go.
Yeah, it's more of a, oh, okay, well, here we go. Well,
here we go.
Thanks.
Yeah, but it's been great. Yeah, I mean, I'm not allowed to say much about the Alcatrazz album actually because it's embargoed until. I mean, I can talk about the Turn of the Wheel, and on Friday, this Friday, we've got a new video, a new release coming out called Sword of Deliverance. But that's really all I'm allowed to say because it's been embargoed, so that when the record company do the promotional push, I haven't ranted about it to everybody else beforehand. So maybe you and I will be talking again, Sebastian.
Yeah, maybe. And I would love to do it.
That would be lovely.
And you know, it's kind of funny. I actually watched a recent video of you talking about turning the wheel and talking about what you expect. And you mentioned that it would be #1 in Japan, #5 here, there, and all that stuff, if I recall.
I know.
What do you expect it to hit in America?
Oh, I've got no idea. I've got no idea. I was just having fun. You know, I don't know how to reply to questions like, "What do you expect from this album?" You know, you always expect it, or you always want it to achieve the best that it can possibly be. You know, so I just took it to the extreme. #1 in Japan, #5 in Germany. You know, blah blah blah. You know, it's all nonsense, but it gets people talking about it, and it works. The Born Again, Born Again. That's a Black Sabbath album with Ian Gillan. The Born Innocent album went to #1 in Japan and went to number. So that's kind of where I was. While I was being flippant, I was also being serious in that it went to #1 in Japan. It was in the top 10 rock albums of the year, and the same in Germany. So I really expect that to be the case here because this is a really good album, and it's been written by the band, you know, The last one was written by the band. Born Innocent was written mostly Graham contributing melodies and vocals, but they had loads of different writers in helping them with this. But this, we wanted to make this a band thing. So that's kind of what we've done.
Which is really good. I like it when a band, writes their own material together.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe your prediction's right. It could hit number one in Japan. I would laugh at that.
I'll go with that.
So I'm going to go back just a little bit here, because you were in your band La Paz,
yes,
and then you moved to I'm guessing London. Yeah, London, yeah. And then you met Richie, and you got into Rainbow, right?
La Paz was the first proper band I was in. We wrote our own material, and we used to play American naval bases in Dunoon here in Scotland, and it was great. We had a great time, but there's only a certain amount of shelf life. And you can be a big, and we were quite a big fish in a small pond in that rock circle around the Glasgow, Edinburgh area. And then I was offered a job with a band called Midnight Blue in London.
Yeah, that's right.
And I went down to join Midnight Blue, and when they split up, I was really poor. I mean, I had no money at all, and I had a friend who worked for BMG, who were Deep Purple's record label. And I asked them if I could get a ticket for the show, begged, and I never ask anybody for anything. I carry my own bags to my room when I go to a hotel. I don't like people doing things for me, but I needed this because I needed to go and see Deep Purple, and he gave me an after show party pass, and so I took a cassette with me, and I handed it to Colin Hart, who had seen on an album sleeve, maybe Perfect Strangers or something. And I recognised him, and I handed it to him and said, "Listen, if Richie ever needs a singer," and thought no more about it until he phoned me up and invited me over to America to audition for Rainbow.
Right, and of course that was the 1994 album,
"Stranger in Us All,"
which
you
I
have
got.
There it is. Yep. Yeah.
Great album, actually. I think it's one of my favorites, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Right next to the Dio record.
Yeah.
That one, this one right there is like right next to it, man. It's right there.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. You. And it's kind of funny. You mentioned, I think I just got to actually ask you this. What is your favorite song from this album?
Oh, it's difficult to say. Ariel, I like the songs we played live, and that because, you go in there and you write, and you write, and then you record them, and then you never hear them again. And it's not until you take those songs out on the road that they actually come to life, and so I thought Ariel was a great song. There were parts of Black Masquerade I really liked. I liked Cold Hearted Woman, Too Late for Tears. Hunting Humans was a good tune. I don't think that it was a great live tune. We played it live in the first tour, and I just thought, until it got to Richie's guitar solo, which was stunning every night. I thought that, but that was a kind of off the wall song that we wrote in 45 minutes, and it was written on the day that a guy called oh God, I can't remember his name now, but he was a serial killer over here in the UK, and he hanged himself, and it was written that day that I found out about it, because you could only get the papers every 2 weeks. The UK newspapers were delivered to the local store, and I read about his name was Fred West, right?
Fred West.
And Fred West. If you Google him, he was a monster of a man, and it was written that day. But it was written about a guy, another serial killer from the UK, a Scottish guy. Called Dennis Nielsen, and I had been reading about him, and he had this thing about murdering young men that he met at the local job centre. He worked in a job centre, and he would take them home and he would ply them with drink and then kill them, and then have sex with their dead bodies, and so that's what that was. So, and somebody actually sent me a message and said that they'd played it. This was, we're going back years now, but they said, oh, love that Hunting Humans song. You know, we played it was our wedding song, and I'm thinking, oh God, what have I done? What have I done? Does anybody listen to this? You know,
it's like you might want to go back and listen to that. I don't want to ruin your wedding or anything.
You might just wonder. Oh my God, brilliant stuff, brilliant.
Hey, at least people like it.
At least, yes, for whatever reason, that's fine. You know.
Well, I mean, it is funny. I mean, that is one of my favorites, but Black Masquerade is probably my favorite song out of the album.
Well, I play that in my. I have a solo band that I go out with, and I go to Brazil and South America, Argentina, Scandinavia, and Russia and places, and that's one of the songs that I play just because it's such a great tune.
Mm-hmm. And it's an amazing tune. I think Richie Blackmore did a great job with the guitar work. Your vocals are extraordinary, right on top.
Well, what's funny about it, and I don't know that I've ever mentioned this, but as you bring it up, when we were doing it, there's an acoustic guitar solo before the main guitar solo comes in, right?
Right.
And we were listening to it, and we're going, "What's that noise? There's a noise there." And so we isolated the guitar, and Richie was singing along. So he's going playing, and he's singing the melody. And we thought, right, you've got to tape your mouth up and play that again, but don't sing this time.
Wow.
You know,
it's funny how unexpected things like that can make the song work.
Yes, of course.
Always like when that happens.
Yeah.
And I think
because you catch him. You know, we were working on tape back then. It's different now. You know, we were working on tape back then, so there was no way to correct anything. You know, if it was wrong, it was wrong. But sometimes if you just get a performance, and you get a performance, it doesn't matter if it's kind of bit hinky. It doesn't matter if the performance is there. You never recapture that moment again, and that's what happened with that acoustic part on Richie's guitar.
And I think, honestly, that's what we're kind of missing these days. You know, I'm not saying there's not a lot of magic there. It's just, I don't know, there's just something not there anymore.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Well, it's down to budgets from the record companies as well, because people don't value music the way that I did.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I can only speak for myself. But I mean, I had to save up a month's worth of pocket money and paper round money just to buy an album, and you played that album every day 5 times for a month, so until you could buy the next one, you know, and my friends would buy this, you know, I would buy David Bowie, you know, the man who sold the world, and somebody else would buy Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and somebody would buy Deep Purple, and somebody would buy whatever. And we just played them to death, you know, for hours and hours, the same thing over and over, but it's not valued the same. And what's happened now is that, and it's something that I don't do, right? When I go in and I do a song, if it's got 4 choruses in it, I sing the 4 choruses. A lot of people go in and they just cut the chorus and they just put it in, thinking we won't notice, and I notice it all the time. I sing. You know, I sing every chorus and try to make everyone and everyone will be slightly different, but I try to make it slightly different so that people know that I'm not cutting and pasting, because it's not, you know, backing vocals is a different thing, because if you're doing 20 tracks of backing vocals, you know, it gets kind of tedious and long-winded to do it. And if you can just cut them in, that's okay. That doesn't bother me. But the cutting in of the lead vocals and saying that, oh, I like that, I'll just cut it in and put it in. I never do that.
And I think that's something I definitely respect from you, man. And the older vocalists as well, from everybody. Yeah. You know, me growing up with this stuff is, you know, it's kind of cool just to know the history of it and how you guys do it. So I really appreciate how you guys do that. And kind of going forward here, you had an album called As Yet Untitled. You came out with it, a solo album.
Yes.
If I recall, you had this album, you released it like 10 years ago.
Yep. Yep.
Now you're re-releasing it.
Yes.
Why are you going to re-release the album?
It was completely ignored first time round.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I recorded it. Derek Sherinian, right, who's the keyboard player he was a keyboard player in Kiss, Alice Cooper, Glenn Hughes's band. I don't remember what they were called. And you know, and he was a friend of mine. We worked together with Yngwie,
Mm-hmm.
and he was and when I left Yngwie's band, he said, Derek said, "Listen, you're always moaning and complaining that you've got nothing to do. You've told me you've got 150 songs there. Go and record 10 of them, you know, and I'll help you." So he did, and so I blame Derek Sherinian. But I got there, but the record company that I was signed to for the album did nothing with it. I mean, you'd never heard of it. No one had heard of it. No one had heard of it. And so I got the rights back for it after a certain period of time. And during the pandemic, I was approached by the store for music, and they said, "Listen, we'd like to put this album out." And I said, "Okay, that's fine. Do you have any bonus tracks?" So I had 2 left over, because I always like to over record, because you never quite know when you're coming to put the album together, if maybe one song just won't work. So you've always got backups. So I had these 2 songs left over, and it turned out that the guy who runs this record company I had done a bunch of tribute albums to people back in the 90s, the late 90s, early 2000s, with a whole bunch of different people. And, you know, Bernie Shaw from Uriah Heep was there, Bernie Tormey from Gillan, who ended up replacing Randy after Randy died in the plane crash. Bernie Marsden. I mean, anybody called Bernie was in there, right?
Wow.
And so I did every week I would get a phone call saying, or every month I'd get a phone call saying, "We're doing a Whitesnake tribute, or a Nazareth, or a UFO, or an Iron Maiden. Would you sing these 3 songs?" And I would learn them, and I would go in and I'd learn them Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'd go in on Friday at lunchtime, and I'd be home by dinner time, having done my 3 vocals and harmonies and whatever needed to be done. And I never heard them again. So it was a real eye-opener for me to hear these songs. I mean, there's some I don't even remember doing. You know, Let's Spend the Night Together, Rolling Stones. I don't remember doing that. You know, Not Fade Away, no idea. You know, Emerald, Thin Lizzy, no, don't remember doing that either. So I think it's a nice package to put it together, you know, to have the 2. It just costs, as far as I'm aware, it just costs the same as what a single album would cost. But you got all these wee bonus lovelinesses in there, so it was fun to do, and it was just something to do and get it out there. And I've done more promotion for this album, this one, As Yet Untitled, than I've done for any album I've ever done.
Oh yeah, well, I definitely enjoyed the album. I went on YouTube to kind of listen to it. One of my favorite songs is "Time Machine."
There you go.
Yeah, great song. In fact, I got to ask you, and because first off, is this song morely about like you wanting to go back in time to a place you want to relive?
Do you know who Doctor Who is?
Yes, big fan.
Right. Okay. Right. So I was watching Doctor Who, and I thought, wouldn't it be brilliant? And it's just going back. If you had a time machine, where would you go back to? If you could make 3 journeys, where would you go back to? And you know, would it be with that girl in the tent when you went away camping when you couldn't afford a hotel? Would it be with your old bandmates going back to play the first concert you ever played together? And so it was just that. It was just a reflection of, you know, I think as one gets older, we reflect a wee bit more on the past, you know, because there's much more of the past than there is of the future.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree.
And so it was really that, and it was just a great riff, and it was it had that kind of AC/DC vibe. Paul Logue gave it that AC/DC vibe, and and when I heard that, I just went, you know what? It's just going to be. This is a time song. This is about time.
Mhm.
You know, it's not waiting in the wings. It's going back and just reliving those 3 moments in time that if you
Mhm.
could, you would.
Mhm. Oh, well, I mean, if I had to go back in time to relive something,
Go on.
I'd probably go back into the 70s, even though I never existed in that time.
Okay, right. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
But if you had to go, if you had to go back and relive something that you actually did live, what would it be?
oh man, that probably the time when I went to go see, you know what, I'll say it, when I went to go see Alice Cooper and Motley Crue. Definitely have to go back and relive that.
There you go. Okay, that's great.
Yeah. I mean, that was my first concert, so that's right there is something I like to go
And they're
see.
very important, aren't they?
Oh,
They are.
yes.
You know, whereas now, you know, people watch them through their phones, and that's always annoyed me. And I get it, you know, but it's the difference between watching porn and actually having sex for me. You know, you know,
Yeah.
I'm actually on the stage, but you're still filming me. Just watch the gig, and because it's when you watch it back, it's never as good, you know, because there's always some big bloke in front of
Oh,
you, you
yeah.
know, dancing around.
It's like,
And
get out of my way.
yeah,
And
it's
then
never.
you miss half the show.
It would never be the same. But I remember, you know, I remember my first concert that I went to, and I remember the first time seeing Deep Purple, AC/DC, Rainbow, you know, Black Sabbath. I mean, I remember all them. Now, I maybe don't remember them exactly, but it's
Mhm.
my memory of them.
Right.
You
And
know,
it's something you can't
no,
erase.
and no one can touch it. You know,
Yeah.
whereas you've got a wee phone memory, you're like, oh God, really? Who is that big guy that's standing in front of me, and why is he always there?
Well, to be honest with you, every time I go to a concert, I really don't film. I watch. I do
Yeah,
this. I'm like,
yeah,
rock on, bros.
yeah, yeah. Rock on, Bruce. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I say, sort of.
yeah.
um, and then of course there's another song. Now this I'm kind of curious about this song. This is another one of my favorites that kind of stood out to me. Living on the
The
Cheap.
cheap, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
What exactly is this song about?
right. Living on the cheap. When I was when I was working with Richie, right?
Mhm.
We were flying, you know, maybe not first class, but definitely doing well. When I joined Richie's band, I was sleeping in a floor in a sleeping bag, right?
Wow.
I was living in a house in a sleeping bag, um, with a box with all my possessions, and all of a sudden you find yourself flying. And I'd only ever flown once before I went to America to join up with Richie.
Mhm.
Um, and all of a sudden I'm staying in a hotel, but you know, and then when we toured, I was finding we were staying in hotels, 5-star hotels that I couldn't afford to eat in.
Wow.
You know, so I was living on the cheap in style, right?
I get it.
We were having people coming round and picking us up in cars and vans and buses. Um, People were carrying my bags, which I hate. I because I don't like, as I said to you earlier on, I don't like people particularly doing things for me. So I was living on the cheap and style. You know, I had no money. I had no money. I had not, you know, I had nothing. And even when the band were playing to 10,000 people in Japan, you know, for 2 nights at the Yogi Olympic pool, I still had not. I still came home and went into my sleeping bag on the floor. You know,
Wow.
I did. You know, and 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 it was just, and it was weird to sleep in a bed for the first time in years. You know, because I'd just been, you know, since Midnight Blue had split up, I was just sleeping on floors.
Wow.
You know, so you know, so for you know, I owe Richie Blackmore so much,
Mhm.
um, because not only did he show me, not only did he give me my own spotlight and a big monitor and a great stage to play on, and allowed me to work with him. You know, he also showed me what life could be like
Mhm.
if you were successful. So I just, like everybody else that he worked with, you either make it or you don't. You either go on and be successful or you don't. And I've worked really hard over the years to not be a disappointment to myself.
Mm-hmm. And sorry about that. My computer was going to die. I had to save it.
That's fine, man. No worries.
That's definitely something, a cool thing that you mentioned, that the way that, they helped you, live that life and have Richie help you learn that. And I do have to say, before I mention the next song, what did you learn the most with Richie, Michael, and Yngwie?
Never to take anything for granted. The most important thing that I learned was that it's not my name that's selling the ticket,
mm-hmm.
right? So I leave my ego at home. My ego goes into a little bag Richie's roadie gave me one time with little stars and moons in it. And I just put it in there and just hand it over to my wife and say, keep that, I'll be back in 2 months. Because I never got into this to be, I can't imagine what it must be like to be Ozzy Osbourne or Gene Simmons, to not be able to walk down the street, without getting people jumping all over you. And I can. I mean, I can walk through concerts that I'm actually playing and nobody recognizes me. And that suits me just fine. I like the art of singing. I like the art of songwriting. I like the art of performing. The fame side of it means nothing to me. It means absolutely nothing. And the only time that it becomes apparent that I need to do it is when I do things like this. When I have to promote something, when I have to speak to people, then that works. And I took my I'll tell you a wee story. Do we have 2 minutes to hear a story?
We have all the time you want, man. Go ahead.
Right, here you go. Right. So I was, my local bar when I lived in London was a place called the Bell and Crown.
Bell and Crown.
Right, in Chiswick. And there was a very, very beautiful South African girl that used to drink in there. And we were quite friendly, And I knew, her boyfriend, and we all got on really well together. And one night she came over to me. I was standing having a drink with a friend of mine. And she came over and she said, I have a bone to pick with you, Doogie. And I was like, what's that? And she said, well, you never told me that Yannick Gers from Iron Maiden drinks in here. And I said, well, why would I tell you that? He's in here every night. If you look around, you'll see him. And my little friend who was with me, who was in his post office thing, a post office uniform, and I said, oh, can I introduce you to my friend Bruce? Right?
Okay.
And I said, and he's a postman. She said, well, I've got a bone to pick with you as well. And she started going on about a parcel delivery that hadn't arrived from South Africa. And Bruce Dickinson, in his only the best he can do is he just went into this whole rant about how the postal service was a bit shite. Right. And she's standing ranting to me about Yannick, and Bruce Dickinson standing beside me. We were having a beer together, and she didn't recognize him either. It was great. So, and those were the things that I learned. So if you don't look like a rock and roll star, and you are a rock and roll star, people think you're a postman.
I get that. And honestly, I mean, I kind of agree with you. I mean, look, I'm dressed up very professional.
I can see that. You look great.
Oh, thank you. I try to look good for people.
It's a nice knot in your tie as well. It's not a clip-on. Please tell me it's not.
Oh no, it's actually an actual tie.
Good for you.
With the Star Wars symbol on it.
Mental.
Well, my sister was getting married. She wanted a Star Wars wedding, so they made this.
Oh right, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So they're married.
Yep. Good. And you kept the tie as a souvenir.
Why not? I mean, hey, anything with Star Wars on it, I ain't gonna turn it down.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah, I'm a huge Star Wars fan and a big wrestling fan, as you can see.
Right. I've never. I watched the first Star Wars movie, and I've never seen one since.
Well,
Listen, it's a thing. It's a thing. I know it's a thing for people. It's just not a thing for me.
Hey, it's not for everybody,
No, I know.
and got to respect that. And and I actually like what you said about putting an ego in the bag. That kind of reminded me of something a friend of mine said. There's this band that I help out a bit, and he had a shirt that said "Egos kill bands" or "Talent" or whatever it said. Kind of
Yeah.
reminded me of that, and it's pretty cool how you've symbolized that, saying that put your ego aside and go to work.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that.
That's it's very important because if I could sell 10,000 tickets, then I would.
Mhm.
But and when I speak to other people who interview me, they go, "Oh, you're a rock star." I'm not. I work with rock stars.
Mhm.
I've never wanted to be a rock star. I'm just a singer. I'm good at what I do. I'm good at what I do, or I wouldn't have survived for 30 odd years or whatever, however long it's been, if I wasn't good at what I do. But it's down to learning my lines, turning up sober, and
Mhm.
leaving my ego at home.
Right.
I don't live a rock and roll lifestyle. It has no interest for me at all. I've been married for 20 years. None of that. I like the live performance. That's what I like.
Mhm.
If somebody recognizes me when I'm walking around in Tokyo or Osaka or Buenos Aires, that's fine.
Mhm.
But I would hate to walk down the street and have people jumping on me all the time. I mean, can you imagine what that must be like?
Not
I mean, it'd just be monstrous, man.
honestly. I don't know if I would live with that. I mean, I would be like, I want to go home. I want to sleep.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Well, so kind of speaking of the one last song that stood out to me, there was a song that this song threw me off, just so you know, a little bit with the title, "Come
Go on.
Taste the Band."
Right.
At first, I thought it was a cover, and I'm thinking, no way, this is not a cover. I went back to listen to the other song, and I was like, okay, it's not a cover.
Yeah.
This is a really good song, and I was kind of curious, because you apparently you borrowed this song from that era, the Mark IV lineup. What did Richie say about this?
Well, he phoned me up on the Saturday night. We were having a party. It must have been somebody's birthday in April 19, maybe 94. And I spoke to him, and he said to me that he wanted to hear something new from me. Now, at that time, I was a session singer working for publishing houses, Rondor and Chrysalis and other people, singing songs to try and get them pitched to Tom Jones and Michael Bolton and Cher. Really?
Share.
Cher? Yeah. That's kind of what we were doing, and so Alex Dixon, who ended up in Bruce Dickinson's solo band, and he was also guitar player with Robbie Williams and Gunn and stuff, and we've been writing partners for years, and we just decided to sit down and write a song in the style of Mark IV Deep Purple, which was the only, and call it "Come Taste the Band," which was the only album at that time, Deep Purple album at the time, that Richie hadn't played on.
Yeah.
So that's what we did, and when it came to putting it together for the album, because obviously there's Coverdale Hughes on Mark IV and Mark III Purple. I got my mate Patty Russo, who was Meatloaf's Paradise by the Dashboard Light girl for years, and she was staying with me at the time, and or staying with us, I should say. And she came in and just blasted it down in one take, and it was great. But I sent it to Richie, and he thought it was funny. He thought it was cheeky, but he got the gag. I mean, he's got for his reputation of being a monster or whatever people think he is. I always found him charming and delightful, great company, and very funny. So he got the gag, and you know. And I think we would have probably done the song on the next album. If we'd done another Rainbow album, we would have just stuck that song on there as a B-side for something.
That would have been a perfect
It
B-side.
would have been great. It would have been great. But, these things, some things are just not to be.
Oh yeah. I mean, hey, at least it's on your solo album. I can't wait to actually get it. The CD version of it.
Well, I got Tony Carey I phoned up Tony Carey. I don't know if I'd met him at that point, but I just phoned him up. I had his phone. I got his phone number for something. I phoned him up and said, "Can you give me?" Tony was the keyboard player on Rainbow Rising,
Mm-hmm.
and on stage. And I just phoned him up and said, "Look, can you? Here's this song. Can you give me an intro similar to Tarak Woman?" And that's what he did. And he put that on, and it just introduced the whole album and brought the whole thing to the fore. You know, and it was a great way to open the record.
Mm-hmm.
I thought.
Yeah, definitely. And honestly, man, I mean, there's so much for me to talk about. I mean, like especially there's probably two more questions for me. One question is when you kind of let Rainbow and join Yngwie, how did that happen? And how was that? Because Yngwie, great guitar player. So is Richie. He's one of my favorites. So kind of curious.
Yeah. Well, I had to leave Rainbow, and Yngwie had done an album called "War to End All Wars."
Mm-hmm.
That was the album, and then Mark Bowles had sung it. But then Mark had left, and he got Joran Land in, and Joran Land lasted about 2 weeks on the tour, and then he left, so he had to get Mark Bowles back in. And Mark didn't want to do any more with Yngwie. So I got a phone call, and Yngwie said, you know, I'm changing the entire lineup. Everybody's gone. Everybody's going to be fired.
Uh-oh.
You know, will you join? And I went out. I flew out there at the beginning of September, and we were due to fly out to South America. And in the I always leave the television on when I'm in the hotel room, and I got up in the morning at about 5 minutes to 9, went and had a shower. And when I came back from the shower, and it was a cooking show that was on, I'll never forget it. They were cooking pancakes and all this stuff. And I went in and had a shower, and I came back out, and the whole world had changed. It was the morning of September the 11th.
Oh.
And we were due to fly out that day from Miami down to South America. And so again, there was no mobile phones at that time. So I phoned Yngwie up at home and said, "Look, man," he said, why the fuck are you calling me? I'm trying to pack my bags. I was like, "Man, we ain't going anywhere. Turn on the news." So we sat around for about 3 days watching the horror that transpired. And then we thought, well, we're not going to be able to fly for another week at least. So why don't we go and do something productive rather than sitting here? So we went back into rehearsals for another week, and then flew down to South America. And the world was never the same again. Flying was never the same again. Mm-hmm. I mean, I suppose in the same way that the pandemic's going to leave everybody shaken and stirred. 9/11 did that, you know, all those years ago. I mean, it's going to be 20 years this year, isn't it? In a few weeks' time.
Yeah.
You know, but that's how I ended up working with Yngwie, and I was with Yngwie for nearly 7 years, and it was great fun. Yeah. We always got on really well, him and I, you know.
Oh, well, I mean, you released 2 good albums. One of them I actually have, Unleash the Fury. Great album.
All right, okay, yep, that was the second one we did. Yeah.
Yeah, and my favorite song is actually "Cracking the Whip." Cracking the Whip.
Okay.
Love that one.
You know what, man? You know what? It's 20. It'll be 20 years ago or something. I've never. I don't even own a copy of the album. You know, I've never heard it. Well, I heard. Well, I did have a copy, and I had the songs that I had to learn. I learned, but I never listened to it.
Mm-hmm. That's okay.
You know,
I mean, hey, you had that experience to write, write the album.
No, I didn't. He wrote it all.
He wrote it all.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, that was the weird thing that, you know, when I went in, he said to me, "Right, okay, here's the deal. You're going to be the singer of my songs in my band. Yes or no?" And I went, "Aye, okay." So that's what we did. You know, and I used to go around to his house in the morning. He'd come and pick me up in his Ferrari in the morning. We'd go to Starbucks and get a couple of coffees, go back, play 2 hours of tennis, you know, and then he'd go and amuse yourself. And he'd be sitting writing the lyrics, you know, and then go, "There you go, sing that." And that's how we did it, you know. And wow. I used to go down there I used to go down there for 5 or 6 weeks, and we just had a great time. I mean, I always liked him. I mean, he's a great guitar player. He's not my kind of guitar player. I mean, like you were saying about Richie and stuff, but he plays great, and he was a load of fun. He was great fun, and he always said to me, people come to see me, and it's a bit like Frank Sinatra or Elvis. It's my name that sells the tickets. Nobody cares who's in my band, and you know what? Nobody cares who's in his band.
In some ways, I do agree with you. You're right. Yeah.
And we used to play. I remember playing in Boston. There's some music school, music academy there, right? And we were playing, and it was just 1,000 guitar players, and 10 girls that had been dragged along by their boyfriends to watch Yngwie play. And right, so what happened was we finished, and he would come on, and when we did the encore, it would be he'd come on and he'd do a 10-minute instrumental, and I went into the shower and put my pajamas on and came back on stage in my bus gear, a pair of pajama bottoms and a t-shirt. Nobody batted an eyelid, man. Not even him. Never even batted an eyelid. And it just proved his point. My understanding is now that he's playing guitar. He has the whole stage, and he's singing as well, and that's what he wanted to do. He wants all the spotlights, not one spotlight, and not the brightest. He wants them all. And good for him. He deserves it.
Yeah, that's kind of funny that you came out in your pajamas and nobody cared.
Nobody gave a shit, man. I could have been naked. And they might have gone,
It's like, oh, well, I don't know what's going on with the singer, but the guitar player's great.
Yeah, he's brilliant. Yeah.
Well, so I do have one last question, man, because this is something
that's why the bald men have ponytails.
No. Well, you see, I'm from Ohio and everything, and I was kind of curious. Are you guys going to when you guys are clear and everything, going to tour in Ohio?
Well, with anybody.
Yeah, with anybody or Alcatrazz.
No, of course. No. Oh God, I remember being in Cleveland before, and we parked the bus, and I thought, they said, "Oh, this is where the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is," and I went, "Well, I'll go and have a look for it," because I'm a wanderer, right? I wander. When I get into town, I just get off the bus and I just go for a wander, and so I was wandering around. Went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It was closed.
Oh,
right.
Man.
I don't know whether it was being renovated. Couldn't remember the name of the venue. Had no idea where it was. Had to wander around the whole place, looking, see if I could see a poster to tell us where we were gigging that night, because I had no idea where we were. I eventually found it because we had a big bus, so I eventually saw the bus down by the river. It was called the Underworld, Underground, under something in Cleveland. I don't remember.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but it was it was good fun. I've always enjoyed it. I like America. I like touring in America because it's never the same. New York's one thing, California, LA, Sacramento, San Francisco are different, and then you start going through the Central Belt, and it's just different, man. And I love it. Although it's got the same name, it's just nowhere's the same at all. It could be 50 different countries, never mind 50 different states.
Oh yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Well, I definitely would love to see you guys live, here in Ohio or wherever I can to go and see you guys.
Yes, of course.
I mean,
you'd be more than welcome.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'll go to Scotland if I had to. I will call you up and say I'm going to see your show.
I'll come, man. Yeah.
May have to waste all my money just to do it, but I'll do it anyway.
No, don't do that. Don't waste your money. Don't waste your money. Wait till we come by and to a town near you.
Right.
It's and you've got my email address anyway, right?
Yeah, I got your
You
contact
right. So you
information.
got that. So listen, you know, if we're coming over, if with Alcatrazz or whoever it might happen to be, just drop me an email,
Mhm.
you know, and let me know, Sebastian, and it'd be great to catch up with you and to go and have a spritzer or a coffee or a donut or whatever, you know, be good. I would really enjoyed this, man. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, man, I definitely enjoyed your stories with, the bands that you've been part of and your entire career. And also, I got to thank the fans here. One of them said, "God bless you, Seabass, and God bless you to you as well."
Thank you. It's lovely to see you, and thank you to everybody listening. I hope you enjoy the As Yet Untitled album. Are you going to play a song from it now?
Well, I mean, I could, but as you can see, I told you actually, I did not tell you. I told them then. My internet's been very, very bad, so some of my stuff has not been working.
Okay.
Luckily, I got the computer working,
Okay.
but I would love to play you something
Oh,
if I can.
be great. All right, man. You take care. Thank you so much.
Definitely, man.
All right.
All of y'all take care and
See,
keep on rocking.
it's gone dark now since we started this.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah.
It's still light out here.
Yeah, yeah. All right, man. Take care.
Take care, man.
Thanks very much. Bye bye.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, that there was Doogie White from the band Alcatrazz / Rainbow / Yngwie Malmsteen / Michael Schenker and all the other bands I can't think of. Everybody, it's been great experience. Thank you all for listening. And I will see you guys in the next video. Take care and keep on rocking.